Well, this is Chapter 9, Labeling Features. And let's see. Learning objectives, create your dynamic labels, modify the default appearance of dynamic labels, use predefined styles for labels, fine-tune the placement properties of dynamic labels, prioritize the placement of dynamic labels, set a scale dependency for label display, create graphic labels using the text tools, convert labels to annotation and modify placement. Broadly speaking, it labels any text that names or describes a feature on a map, including proper names. Haiti, Buckingham Palace, Interstate 10. Generic names like Lake, Tundra, Hospital. Descriptions, residential, commercial, hazardous, or numbers. 7,000 placed on a mountain to indicate its elevation. An ArcMap labels specifically represent values in a layer attribute table. You can add other bits of text to a map using a draw toolbar, but strictly speaking, these are not labels and do not behave the same way because they're just static text, so they don't really do anything, just sit there. Labels, for example, stay close to the feature they are associated with as you zoom in and out. Text is not similarly sensitive. Its position may change marked in relation to the features if you zoom or pan the map. And they give you a picture here. Default labels are often sufficient, and they show one where they have the country of China. China's labeled real small, and then they show another one where they've modified how it looks, and China, the country name, is larger, so it stands out more. They also changed the placement of the labels on the assuming those are rivers. But anyway, it changed some placement dynamic labels, make them easier to read. Seen in chapters 3 and 7, you can label all the features in a layer with a single click. This process, called dynamic labeling, is fast but has a limitation. For one thing, ArcMap chooses label positions. You can set guidelines, but the actual placement is out of your control. If the scale of your map changes or if different layers are added or removed, ArcMap may change the position labels. Still, dynamic labels may be useful for interactive internet map publishing. An alternative to dynamic labels is annotation. Annotation is static text or graphics you can individually select, position, and modify. You can enter annotation manually or to convert existing labels to annotation. Annotation features are stored as part of a map in an annotation group the same way as dynamic labels, or in GeoDatabase as annotation feature class. If you're creating a printed map and want significant control of appearance and placement of labels, annotation is the best option. That doesn't seem pertinent to what we're doing there, so I'll skip over that reading. So go into ArcMap. Now we're going to open the EX09A. It shows us from Florida again. Cities already have a default label, but you need additional labels to make the map more helpful. First, you will label the state of Florida and its water features. In table contents, right-click the southeast layer and click Label Features. So we're going to right-click Southeast Label and choose Label Features. Each feature in the layer is labeled, but because this map shows only one state, you can see only one label for Florida. Do you see it right there in the middle? In the center of the map, or Florida in the center of the map, ArcMap tries to put labels in the center of each polygon. Next, we'll change the font and color of the label. Open the properties for the southeast layer. So I right click on it, choose properties. Then click the labels tab. In the text string frame, the label field list shows which field and attribute is being used for labels. You see he's got state name there. Below this, you see the current label symbology. The labels for this layer are drawn in 8-point black Arial. Click the color chip. On the color palette, choose gray 20%. In a text symbol frame, in the size list, replace 8 with 14. Next, click the symbol button. In the symbol selector, click the Edit Symbol button. It's this right here. On the Editor dialog box, click the Formatted Text tab. Next to character width, down here, it says highlight 100 and enter 130. So we're going to change that to 130. Under text case, click all caps. Next, click the mask tab. Under style, click halo. And you can see a change over here as you're doing this. Yours says Georgia?
Yeah. Front, southeast, yeah. It says Georgia.
Does everybody say Georgia or just...
Why?
Did you open Georgia?
I write, is it southeast?
I mean, when you opened it at first, was it a map of Florida or Georgia?
Florida.
Really? I don't know. Over here on the left-hand side, your table of contents, southeast is selected.
Wow, what is it? Southeast. Yeah, southeast. I hope it changes Florida.
I don't know. It is strange. Let's see, under style, click halo, change size to 1. Click OK to close the editor dialog box. Click OK to close the symbol selector. And click OK again to close the layer properties dialog. And then everybody should say Florida except for Liam. Price says Georgia.
No, it says Florida.
Really? Huh. But you can see it stands out better and just visually more appealing. You successfully created a label for the state of Florida that is well suited for its purpose. The halo ensures the text isn't lost on the map, but the light gray color makes it visually less prominent, so it doesn't compete with other features or labels. Open the properties of the Major Lakes layer. So I'm going to right click on Major Lakes, choose properties, and click the labels tab, or mine's already selected. Select the label features in this layer checkbox. Click the symbol button to open the symbol selector. In the symbol selector, scroll through the Esri style library and click the label style river. Then click OK. It says no unique style for lake label exists, so you use the river style instead. In case you're wondering why we're using river for the lake. Click OK to apply the changes. Should do OK twice, but I think I went ahead and did OK once before. Lakes on the map are now labeled. Florida label move position once the lakes were labeled. Dynamic labeling means labels will change position depending on placement of other features and other labels and use of the map scale. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and save this in the My Data folder. So do a file save as. Go to My Data. And save that. So ArcMap chooses label positions to minimize conflicts with other text and features on the map, but you can control position somewhat, as you will see in exercise 9b. If you want absolute control of the label positions, you must either create graphic labels, which you will do in exercise 9c, or convert dynamic labels to annotation, which you will do in exercise 9d. Okay, this is exercise 9b. Setting rules for label placement. When you place labels dynamically, ArcMap chooses label positions according to rules you can modify. Labels for points can occupy any of 8 positions around the feature: above, below, above right, below right, and so on. You can rank these positions and prohibit certain ones as desired. Labels for the feature can be placed above, below, or on the features. It can be made to follow feature curves. Labels for polygons are always placed as close to the center as a polygon as possible, but you can choose to rotate the label vertically or remove the label if it doesn't fit inside the polygon. In addition, label and feature weights can be set for each layer on a map to prioritize and handle labeling conflicts. If there isn't room to label 2 nearby features in different layers, only a feature in a layer with a higher label weighting will be labeled. Additionally, if you don't want certain features obscured by labels, you can assign them higher feature weights to minimize the possibility of labels overlapping them. In this exercise, you will modify the properties of the city's label and then create labels for the major rivers layer with distinct rules for label placement. You also change layers properties that determine which features is labeled when there's conflict. It says open EX09B. The map looks as it did at the end of exercise 9A. If city labels were restricted to the left of the points, there would be less clutter in the southern Atlantic coast area. If the city's labels were restricted to the left of the points, I guess we'll see. I don't see how putting them left would make it any better, because they're still just so close together. It's just going to be cluttered. But I guess they won't be mixed in with the little shipwrecks. Okay. It says open the properties of the city's population 100,000 plus. So we'll right click on that and choose properties. Then click the labels tab. Mine's already selected. Under other options, click placement properties. So down here at the bottom, the other options, click placement. On the placement properties dialog box, make sure the placement tab is active. So your first tab here should be selected. If you have the conflict over here choose placement. When labels are offset horizontally around points, the default, each possible position can be ranked. The graphic in the point setting frame shows the current setting. Features represented by the white square in the middle, and the numbers in the surrounding squares rank each position. 1 is the most desirable, 3 is the least. Number 0 means the label cannot occupy that position. In the current setting, ArcMap places labels above and to the right of the features, so long as they do not overlap other labels. All positions allowed, although positions below and to the left of the feature are discouraged with this setting. You see that down here, bottom left-hand corner is 3s, isn't it? Doesn't really say why yet. On the Placement Properties dialog box, click Change Location to open Initial Point Placement dialog box. On Initial Point Placement dialog box, scroll down and click the Settings for Prefer Center Left. All allowed. Okay, so this is when your preferred center left, all allowed. Make sure your dialog box matches the graphic. And 222, 13, 222, so matches this one here. Then click OK. Choose OK to close the Placement Properties dialog box. Choose OK again to close the Layers properties. Still looks cluttered to me, but this is better. Most of the city names should be located on the left side of the corresponding point. However, at this scale, many of the labels overlap the point symbols. It is not clear which point is Hollywood and which one is Pembroke Pines. Depending on the size of the ArcMap window, some city labels may still be in conflict with shipwreck features. You will make these final adjustments later when you convert the labels to annotation. Open the properties of major rivers. So right-click on major rivers, choose properties. Then click Labels tab. Mine's already selected. Turn on the labels for the label features here. It says choose the river symbol style. Let's see if I skip something. Open the properties, click the labels tab, turn on the labels, choose the river's symbology. Well, I assume it's under this label styles. Didn't say to click it though. Okay, so choose rivers. This river. Click OK, and then click Apply. Then click Placement Properties. Placement Properties dialog box is different for points, lines, and polygons. On the Placement tab, which ours are already selected, under Line Settings, Click the curved option if it's already selected. There's line settings. See, mine selected. For position, choose above and clear the on line checkbox. Huh. Mine's already clear. Okay. Make sure the remove duplicate labels option is selected. So that's down here at the bottom. Mine's already selected. And maintain the other defaults. It says choose OK to close placement properties, and OK again to close layers. ArcMap tries to label as many features as possible without overwriting labels. You want to label most rivers and canals, but doing so makes map look cluttered, and your city labels look wrong again. You will downgrade the priority level of rivers to help clean up the map. Do you see what it did with the city names? They're now back in the ocean over here because it put the river names where it had the city names. That's what they're indicating. It says allowing labels to overlap. By default, ArcMap does not put labels on top of each other. This means that depending on the scale and the part of the map you're looking at, some features in a layer may not be labeled. If you want to be sure every feature in a layer is labeled, you can tell ArcMap to place overlapping labels. You can also control label on label, label on features, label on feature overlaps for individual layers. For more information, contact help, and so forth. Okay, in the Customize menu, click Toolbars. There it is. Okay. Toolbars, labeling. There's labeling. To turn on labeling toolbar. Labeling toolbar with several buttons for managing labels appears in the ArcMap application window. On the labeling toolbar, click the label priority ranking button, and that's the yeah, I can't see this picture at all. Jeez, it looks like this one, but no, let's pause labeling. Which one did you say? The second one. Oh, okay. On the label priority rankings dialog box, layers of the map are listed in order labeling priority, which you can change. It says click major rivers to highlight it, and then click the bottom, not the down arrow. This bottom is the one with the arrow with a line underneath it. That takes clear down to the bottom. Move the label priority ranking dialog box out of the way, and click apply. Do you see what happened there? So everything takes precedence over the rivers now. So that's why it didn't move the cities out of the way, and some of the rivers isn't showing. Notice how the map changes. There are fewer labels for the rivers and canals, and the map is easier to read. Click OK to close the label priority rankings dialog box. You can use Label Manager dialog box to set label properties and scale dependencies for all layers using one window rather than opening each layer's properties separately. You can also use the Label Manager dialog box to create different classes of labels based on symbology categories or their differentiating attributes. For instance, in the Florida map, you could choose one type of label for the no-fee state parks and a different type of label or the no label for the fee-required parks. Or if you have a roads feature class whose attribute table contains a field for data type, for the road type, you could use a different label for each class. For example, symbol markers for highways, black text for main roads, and gray text for local roads. Creating label classes also allows you to have more than one label per feature. For example, if you want countries to counties to be labeled with both their name and population, you can use two different labels. Once you create label classes, you can set label properties for each class separately. For advanced label placement options, you can turn on the Mapplex label engine. Mapplex allows you to modify the density of labels, allows more control over label positioning for different data types. Another way to reduce the label clutter is to implement scale-dependent labels as shown in Chapter 3. Open the properties of major range of rivers. On the Labels tab, under the Other Options, so make sure you're under the labels. And then under Other Options, click the Scale Range. On the Scale Range dialog box, click the Don't Show Labels When Zoomed option. And from the Output Beyond window, or Beyond menu, choose 1 and 1 million. Doesn't say anything about the end. It says click OK to close the scale. Click OK again to close layers property. What? Does that make sense what we just did? It,
Couldn't find the drop down. Yeah, I was like, why?
see, we have 1 and 3 million here, don't we? For our scale. And we set 1 and 1 million. So it controls when do labels appear, basically.
I thought it was a single value. So
Oh, you're typing 1 million? I'm surprised they didn't have like a drop down there.
they did. They did.
Oh, so but you can type it in too?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I thought we were doing.
That's why I thought we chose the drop down. But then you said you were typing it in. It's like, well, maybe I'm still not awake this morning. Okay. Major rivers label will appear only on scales larger than 1 and 3 million. If the tourist brochure uses large scale local map in addition to the main map, rivers and canals will be labeled. On the menu bar, click Bookmarks Canals to see the scale dependent labels. So bookmark canals. And you see that when we take a look at a different view of it, the zoomed in view, we can see the names of the rivers. Zoom to the full extent of the map. Where's the world? There. And close the labeling toolbar. And then we'll go ahead and save that. So do a save as my data. I'll call it Hayes. And we'll see how this works with the internet. But that's the end of the 9B. What I want you to do is I want you to locate 3 maps out there, and I want you to change. I want you to take a screenshot. You press print screen, paste in the Word of the before, and then I want you to go and improve it by working with the labels, making them stand out more. Change it. If it looks like it's already perfect, just change it. Don't make it worse, but change it somewhat, and see if you can get the map to look better.